Welcome to Technology Comparisons Crashcasts. I'm your host, Sheila, and today we're diving into a comparison of LDAP and Active Directory. Joining me as always is our tech expert, Victor. Hey Victor, ready to unravel some directory services?
Hi Sheila, absolutely. I'm excited to break down these two important technologies for our listeners.
Great. Before we begin, listeners should have a basic understanding of network protocols and client-server architecture. Today we'll cover the definitions, history, core functionalities, and real-world applications of LDAP and Active Directory. But first, let's start with a quiz question. In a large organization with 10,000 employees across multiple locations, which technology would be more suitable for managing user accounts and access control? LDAP or Active Directory?
That's an interesting question, Sheila. It really gets to the heart of how these technologies are used in enterprise environments. Without giving away the answer, I think our listeners will need to consider factors like scalability, features, and integration with other systems. It's not as straightforward as it might seem at first glance.
You're right, Victor. Let's start by defining these terms for our listeners. Can you give us a brief overview of LDAP and Active Directory?
Certainly. LDAP stands for Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It's an open, vendor-neutral protocol used for accessing and maintaining directory information services over an IP network. That's a network using Internet Protocol. On the other hand, Active Directory is Microsoft's proprietary directory service that uses LDAP as one of its access protocols. Active Directory is a complete directory service solution, while LDAP is just a protocol for communication.
That's helpful, Victor. So LDAP is like a language for talking to directory services, while Active Directory is a full system that uses that language, among others. Can you tell us a bit about the history of these technologies?
Of course. LDAP was developed in the early 1990s as a lighter alternative to the more complex X.500 directory access protocol. Microsoft introduced Active Directory in Windows 2000 Server as a centralized system for managing Windows domain networks. Active Directory built upon LDAP concepts but added many Windows-specific features and optimizations.
Interesting. So if I understand correctly, LDAP came first, and then Active Directory expanded on it for Windows environments. What are some of the core functionalities of these technologies?
Great question. Both LDAP and Active Directory serve as centralized repositories for storing and managing information about network resources, such as users, groups, and computers. They provide authentication and authorization services, allowing administrators to control access to resources. However, Active Directory goes beyond LDAP by offering additional features like group policy management, DNS integration, and more sophisticated replication mechanisms.
That makes sense. It sounds like Active Directory is more feature-rich, especially for Windows-centric environments. But are there situations where LDAP might be preferred over Active Directory?
Absolutely. LDAP is often favored in heterogeneous environments where different operating systems need to interact. It's also lighter weight and can be more suitable for smaller organizations or specific use cases. Many open-source LDAP implementations like OpenLDAP are available and can be more cost-effective for some organizations.
I see. So it's not always a clear-cut choice between the two. Victor, can you provide an analogy to help our listeners better understand the relationship between LDAP and Active Directory?
Sure, Sheila. Think of LDAP as a universal language for describing organizational structures, like a standardized format for company org charts. Active Directory, in this analogy, would be a sophisticated HR management system that not only uses this language, but also adds features like automatic reporting, integration with payroll systems, and tools for managing employee performance and training.
That's a great analogy, Victor. It really helps clarify the relationship between the two. Now let's talk about some real-world implementations. Can you share an example of how these technologies are used in practice?
Certainly. I once worked with a mid-sized company that was using OpenLDAP for user authentication across their Linux servers and some custom applications. As they grew and adopted more Microsoft products, they decided to transition to Active Directory. The process was challenging because they had to migrate user data and reconfigure applications, but ultimately, it provided better integration with their growing Windows infrastructure and simplified management for their IT team.
That's a great example of how business needs can drive technology choices. As we wrap up, what are some key points our listeners should remember about LDAP and Active Directory?
Great question, Sheila. The key takeaways are: point 1. LDAP is a protocol while Active Directory is a complete directory service. Point 2. Active Directory uses LDAP but adds many Windows-specific features. Point 3. LDAP is more versatile across different platforms, while Active Directory is optimized for Windows environments. Point 4. The choice between LDAP and Active Directory depends on factors like existing infrastructure, scalability needs, and required features.
Excellent summary, Victor. Now, let's reveal the answer to our quiz question. For a large organization with 10,000 employees across multiple locations, Active Directory would generally be more suitable for managing user accounts and access control. Its advanced features, scalability, and integration with Windows systems make it well suited for enterprise environments. However, the best choice always depends on the specific needs and infrastructure of the organization.
That's right, Sheila. While LDAP could potentially handle this scale, Active Directory's additional features and robust replication capabilities make it a more common choice for large distributed organizations.
Thank you, Victor, for sharing your expertise today. Listeners, we hope you found this comparison of LDAP and Active Directory helpful. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Technology Comparisons Crashcasts and leave us a rating. Your support helps us continue creating informative content. Until next time, keep crashing through those tech comparisons.